Hello there, Lunar Squadron, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be talking about a brand new argument that has surfaced in regards to the story and gameplay for Jedi Survivor. This argument claims that going to Coruscant, that Coruscant being in Jedi Survivor, is a massive mistake and actually breaks canon for Star Wars. That's right, guys. This argument claims that going to Coruscant is actually breaking Star Wars canon. We're going to be talking about this argument and why it just makes absolutely no sense to us. But before we do that, if you're new to the channel, we would love to have you as always, and the way to do that is just go down below this video, hit that little subscribe button, the bell notification right on next to it. It will notify you every single time Andreas and I upload the latest and greatest Star Wars and Jedi Survivor content. Now, without further ado, Andreas, are you ready to talk about this very puzzling argument?
Oh yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's get right into it. Okay, Andreas, we have a brand new argument from our friends over at Game Rant, and I gotta say, they are unwon when it comes to takes for Jedi Survivor recently. So why don't you go ahead and enlighten all of us and tell us what exactly is going on in this article?
Yeah, Game Rant really has been our number one source to quibble with recently. They do, like you said, Nick, have these hot takes when it comes to Star Wars gaming that sometimes I wonder if they've just run out of things to write about. But I think it's important to address these articles because I just think it's important to have intelligent discussions about Star Wars and illuminate some of the reasons why articles like these are utter nonsense. So the first half of this article really does a lot of trouble trying to prove to the reader that we are going to go to Coruscant at some point throughout Star Wars Jedi Survivor. One of my favorite parts of this article is where the author really tries to put together a good case as to why he thinks that we're going to end up in Coruscant. First of all, he's referring to the shot of Cal with Bode Akuna, and he says, quote, "In the background of this split-second clip, a plethora of lights can be seen, and as Bode pulls Cal up onto the platform, the camera pans down to show neon lights. To fans of Star Wars' additional media, particularly the Clone Wars, this scenery is going to look pretty familiar. Some conclude it to be Coruscant, the hub of the galaxy, former home of the Jedi Temple, and current home of the Emperor himself." Up next, the author then talks about the first trailer where we saw the Powin opening up the briefcase, which had Cal's lightsaber in it. And he says in the very next paragraph, based on the footage so far, it seems as though Cal may be heading to Coruscant. And then the article goes on about how if Cal does end up going to Coruscant, how disastrous it's going to be for the canon. And we're going to talk about that in some great detail in just a bit. But for now, I'd love to clarify for this article that if you go to a website, it's called starwars.com, and you go to the screenshot section, you can scroll over to that shot that it's talking about with the Powin in the briefcase, and it says right there in the bottom, it says an Imperial Senator makes a dangerous deal on Coruscant. So we have confirmation from Star Wars, we have confirmation from Respawn, who you'd imagine would approve that concept art and that quote for Star Wars to feature on starwars.com. We have approval from Respawn, from the horse's mouth, that this game will be going to Coruscant. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. I think we've wasted the whole first half of the article talking about whether or not this game is actually going to go to Coruscant. We have confirmation it's going to go to Coruscant. Now, the last two paragraphs of this article then go on to complain as to why going to Coruscant is such a bad idea, and I really think it's encapsulated in this one sentence where he says, "Having Cal easily come and go from the planet," referring to Coruscant, "as he pleases could tarnish the Empire's intimidating stature." Nick, what say you about this? Is this a catastrophe that we're going to Coruscant? Is it going to tarnish the Empire?
I'm sorry, I lost it when you were very petty there. That was very passive aggressive for this website called StarWars.com. That was fantastic. You know what's funny is how he's theorizing about how we could end up on Coruscant or how this game might go to Coruscant. Coruscant is literally the only confirmed planet in Jedi Survivor right now. The only planet that has actually been named by anything has been Coruscant. So I think that is hilarious. Like, this guy clearly did absolutely zero research before writing this article. And again, that is just something that continues to happen with these publications. And people are going to click on these articles and then they're going to start believing in this stuff when all of this is just simply misinformation. And that is why we find it so important to make these videos and have these discussions. It's just because people are not doing their research, and we want to make sure that you guys are getting the right information in regards to Jedi Survivor. Now, Andreas, I do want to talk about these last two paragraphs that you were talking about. I kind of want to just read through them real quick and then just talk about them so that we know exactly what we're talking about. So it starts with, Star Wars Jedi Survivor is set 5 years after the events of the first game, putting it at roughly 9 BBY on the in-universe timeline. At this point in time, the Jedi are all but extinct, with Darth Vader and his Inquisitors personally searching for Force users across the galaxy and wiping them out. The Obi-Wan Kenobi Disney Plus show, which is set in the same year, shows this in full force as Inquisitors chase the Jedi across the galaxy. He continues, it would be extremely difficult for Cal Kestis to be able to sneak into Coruscant undetected and leave it in one piece. Coruscant is the center of the Empire's reign, and although fans haven't seen it much in canon materials, it is presumably swarming with stormtroopers and elite Imperial military types. While an action set piece on Coruscant would be undoubtedly tense and thrilling, and seeing the planet during this period would be interesting for fans, it wouldn't make too much canonical sense. Having Cal easily come and go from the planet as he pleases could also tarnish the Empire's intimidating stature, blah, 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 blah. Okay, there's a couple points I want to talk about here, mainly in that second paragraph where he says, it would be incredibly difficult for Cal Kestis to be able to sneak into Coruscant undetected and leave one piece. No, it would not. Coruscant is a massive planet. There are hundreds of levels. It is very believable that Cal would be able to slip in and out under the Empire's radar into Coruscant. And no one is saying that Cal is going to just go back and forth from Coruscant like over and over and over again. Like, maybe he just goes one time and he just gets what he needs to do, probably his lightsaber, since it seems like the lightsaber will end up on Coruscant in the hands of that Imperial senator, and he's trying to get out, and clearly he's having a hard time getting out. No one is suggesting that Cal should be going in and out repeatedly from Coruscant, and, you know, it makes me laugh that he is complaining about, oh, Cal going into the home world of the Empire. That would break canon. My dude, Cal literally goes to Fortress Inquisitorius in Fallen Order. He goes to the Inquisitors. He goes to the Empire. He goes to Darth Vader. Like, this is something that Cal has a history of doing. Is it, like, I don't know, is it just me, Andreas, or does this seem a little ridiculous?
Cal fought Darth Vader. My dude, Cal fought Darth Vader in Jedi Fallen Order. And so this whole concept that he's introducing, that this story cannot have Cal go to Coruscant because it's going to break canon, because it'll tip Vader off. It's going to tip everyone off that Cal's there. Cal's going to go there undetected, and that's we can't have that. Nobody is saying that Cal goes to Coruscant undetected. Nobody is saying that it's very easy to go to Coruscant. Nobody is saying that he just, skips into Coruscant flying casually. I would love for Cal to be presented with the challenge of having to sneak into Coruscant. That's what makes an action game interesting. The more difficult of the area that I'm trying to get into, that's what just creates a interesting environment for me to sneak around, for me to feel that danger, that rush that I want to get from video games. And for this article to say that it would be extremely difficult for Cal to be able to sneak into Coruscant undetected and leave in one piece, and that's the reason why it doesn't make too much canonical sense. I think he's really focusing on this really just feels like shade to say that we shouldn't be going to Coruscant for any random reason. It feels like this author really just doesn't like Coruscant as a planet and is just finding any excuse not to go to Coruscant because for whatever reason, there's this camp of Star Wars fans that want to avoid Coruscant at any and all cost. And I really think that if we refer to the most recent source material that we got on Coruscant during the Imperial era, which is Andor. For those of you who haven't seen Andor does explore the inner workings of the center of the ISB, the Imperial Security Bureau, as it operates on Coruscant, and it deals with some characters who, I don't want to spoil anything, but some characters that are influential in the creation of the rebellion itself that slip in and out of Coruscant relatively easily and relatively undetected. And that is a main theme throughout Andor, that the Imperial is, how many times have you heard that quote? They're so fat and satisfied. They can't imagine what it would be like for someone to slip into their areas, to spit in their food, to get in there, to play with their toys. And that's exactly what I think the Empire is. This whole quote that it would tarnish their intimidating stature. For as intimidating as the Empire and Darth Vader are, Nick, correct me if I'm wrong, but they've always been a bit clumsy in that regard. And Andor paints them as clumsy, doesn't it?
Yeah, that is exactly what canon establishes, is that the Empire is so damn arrogant, they're so damn full of themselves that they let this type of stuff slip under the radar, because if that couldn't possibly happen under the Empire, nothing like that would possibly happen. We're way too strong for that to happen. And I'm so happy you brought up Andor. I think that is such an important point, because guess what? Andor is canon. It is the most recent Star Wars that we have outside of the Bad Batch, new episode coming out in a few hours on all that. But I'm so happy you mentioned Andor, because exactly what you said. It explores the ISB, the Empire's main security for monitoring rebellious acts across the galaxy, but apparently they can't monitor the rebellious acts that are taking place on Coruscant. Like, there's a whole faction of the rebellion that is being formed and operated out of Coruscant. One of their own senators is part of the rebellion and is funding the rebellion. Like, they don't even pick up on that. So to say that Cal couldn't slip in and out of Coruscant easily, to me, is just nonsense. He very much could slip out of Coruscant easily, because Coruscant, like we said, is a massive-ass planet. He could very easily slip in and out, and no one would ever know. They would never know. Like, he could be in and out, grab his thing, and get going. And it seems like if that one planet, or if that one shot of him with Bota Kuna is in fact Coruscant, it doesn't look like it's going to be easy for him to get out. It looks like he's going to have to make an escape. But I'm very happy you brought up that whole point about Andor, because that just totally debunks the whole theory about, it not being canon or it breaking canon that he could slip in and out of Coruscant. That whole point makes absolutely no sense when you consider Andor as a whole. So I'm very happy you brought up that point. And like you said, I don't understand why there is this growing sense against these legacy Star Wars planets, because that is exactly what I want out of this game. As much as I love these brand new planets and I love these studios developing new planets, I still think it is incredibly important for Star Wars to return to these legacy planets. And I'm not saying just Tatooine, because we always go to goddamn Tatooine, but I'm talking about going to Coruscant, going back to Utapau, going back to Mustafar, going back to Naboo. Go back to these places, because George created such a wonderful set of planets for the prequel trilogy and for the original trilogy. He's developed these wonderful planets that you guys, we want to explore. We got to explore these planets. So I'm really happy Coruscant's going to be in this game. Obviously, Andreas, you and I love Coruscant, so that's fantastic. But I want to explore these legacy planets, and I don't understand why people just want to shoot them down from time to time. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really think of any other reason or motivation to write this article other than that this author unfortunately just doesn't enjoy Coruscant as a planet and wanted to write a hit piece about its involvement or potential involvement in Star Wars Jedi Survivor. According to him, it's only potentially going to be in Survivor. I just can't really see a legitimate concern here if you are actually contextualizing the most recent canonical work that we've received out of Lucasfilm, like I said, with Andor. And as you said, Nick, we've had Jedi come so close to not just the Empire, but Darth Vader himself. We've had the show that this article does quote Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan, as we know, just like Cal, goes to Fortress Inquisitorius and also fights Vader, and it's not breaking canon. It is canon. That's what happened now. So I just don't quite see where this is coming from, and I'd really be interested to hear from everyone in the comments if you think that this argument holds any water, and honestly, more importantly, because we all know that it doesn't hold any water, what are your thoughts on this game going to Coruscant? It's one thing to say that it doesn't make canonical sense. It's another thing to say that you're just not jazzed about it or you're not excited about it because you'd rather go somewhere else. That's the more honest opinion to take here. So let us know in the comments down below. Are you excited to go to Coruscant? Is this a place that you'd love to go? would you love to scratch that itch that 1313 left with the promise of exploring an underground Coruscant in a story video game? Is this finally going to be our great return to Coruscant after Battlefronts 1 and 2 decided miraculously just not to touch the planet? I honestly think this could be a watershed moment in gaming, a moment that we've all waited for. A next-gen story Star Wars game set on Coruscant. This is a pretty big deal for a lot of Star Wars fans, and this is going to mean a lot. I know it's going to mean a lot to me, and Nick, I know it's going to mean a lot to you, right?
Oh, absolutely. I cannot wait to return to Coruscant. It is my all-time favorite planet in Star Wars, so just seeing an article like this is incredibly frustrating just on a personal level. It just doesn't make any sense to me, but I am incredibly excited to return to Coruscant. Can't wait.
Alright guys, well, let us know in the comments down below if you are also just as excited as Nick and I about the prospect of returning to Coruscant. We'd love to hear what you all have to say down in the comments below. However guys, that's going to do it for this discussion. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, we will see you all next time.